Hey guys, welcome back. Here's the next update on the AIDevAccelerator. My name is Rich Beams. I'm developing in public a single-person founder app called AIDevAccelerator, and it's a lab experiment proving that AI-assisted development can 10x productivity. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through some things that I've experienced with my coding. If you're a developer trying to use AI to develop, you might be interested in this. If you're a vibe coder, you might be interested as well, because you may be frustrated, confused on why AI is not producing the kind of things that you are expecting. And there's definitely some remedies that you can use. I'm going to go through some things, go through some real examples that I've run into. And I get lazy too. I mean, I've been in this game for 30 years, more than 30, and I've seen AI do some amazing things, but also it gets tripped up on some of the simplest things. But there's reasons for it, so I want to go through those things and maybe help you guys out. So let's go real quick on a status update on the AI Dev Accelerator. Currently, I have finished some components here. Very, very integral components. And this is one of the things I'm going to show you as an example today. In billing and subscriptions, that was a really, really difficult integration. I knew it would be. AI it can communicate with Stripe and get information if you set it up correctly to integrate with Stripe. But Stripe is quite complex, and the sign-up flows, the payment flows, the webhooks, the notifications you need, the events that come from the back end of Stripe to your system. That's pretty complicated stuff. So understanding how that works is going to get you ahead of a lot of development there. However, you don't need to know every step, and that's what I want to show today. How to get AI to kind of understand what it's doing in a little bit better way. Everybody talks about context engineering, right? It is a very, very important concept to grasp if you're vibe coding or you're an actual developer and you're a senior developer. Senior developers have a different, unique situation because they know the entire process from start to finish. They've done lots of projects. So when you want to communicate with an AI, you think you can communicate with it like you would communicate maybe with a team or a junior, and it's really a little bit different. So I'm going to go through that. Email notifications, I set up resend. That was pretty quick and easy, but getting it to do what you want it to do when it's kind of plugged into the authentication and billing system, that's another thing. But we're going to go through the billing and subscription stuff because it is an integral part of a SaaS. And I think it's super important. So let's go into, this is my new landing page that I kind of came up with. It's a, if you've watched my videos in the past, I kind of said I was going to probably release a waitlist management platform as my first product, but not there yet. I don't know yet. It definitely has to be proven. None of my projects will be released in public unless they've proven themselves and people want them and people actually have issues and that need to be solved. So that's kind of where the concept is living right now. And this basic AI Dev Accelerator is to build the foundational components. So we're not done with the foundational components yet of a SaaS project. So this is just kind of a case study kind of thing. So you see the little hero here. The AI did research based on what a SaaS needs to have on its landing page to convert customers. Now, that was a big thing when you're communicating with AI. You need to specifically tell it what you're trying to do, because if you said, "Hey, make a landing page," right? It's just going to make you a pretty landing page. While being pretty is great, there are definitely features in a website, I should say web page, that gets platforms like Google to be happy, to show on search results, SEO, if you will, and now AI. So if you want your site to be recognized by AI inside of, like, let's say ChatGPT, you need to do things in a way that it likes, right? So the AI was I instructed the AI to make sure it knew that my goal was to convert a customer. So each piece on this screen needs to flow in a certain way and to do the research on what is appropriate for a high converting SaaS landing page. So this is what I came up with, right? So these are the testimonials, and it goes through and does features or benefits. Actually, these are benefits. These are features. I don't really like these little icons. They're kind of annoying, but it actually serves a purpose for now. And then it does CTAs at the bottom, right? And then it goes into the plans, the pricing plans. And this is the one thing about Stripe integration that I wanted to get into today. Just you can go in and if you're a developer and you're a senior, you might say to on a comment or something. And anybody can write comments on here. I'm not gonna block comments from anybody. I think everybody has their own opinions, but I think most developers will say, hey, you can just integrate to Clerk. And I agree with that. And I am an integrator. I really love integrating all these different projects into my apps. However, there are certain projects that I think are so integral to be able to have control over to really make your site convert. I mean, this is a very big thing. As much as you want to say design is a very, very, very important part of conversion. The UX is super important on the landing page. So I decided to take some extra time, integrate this in a custom way. And the thing about Convex, I chose Convex, and I made that a requirement for this. And Convex has a Stripe integration, so you can lean on that as an integration, but you still have to wire up all the different things. So on this screen, these are coming from Stripe, and each piece is actually in the Stripe dashboard in a product, right? So all these little features, like unlimited wait lists, custom branding, priority support, those are all features that are inside the product. So Stripe lets you go in and add features to the actual backend products. So it's pulling those from Stripe. Now, I did instruct the AI to make sure that this landing page was super fast. I don't want it making an asynchronous call from this landing page to get this information from Stripe and slow down the loading of this landing page. So what it devised was a caching system where anytime this is changed, like if I instead of saying unlimited wait lists, I decided to say up to 20 wait lists, and I changed it inside of the Stripe dashboard, it would automatically call a webhook, right? An event webhook, and it would update my Convex database automatically. And then the cache, when the site's loaded, would update the cache for the first load might take a second. But for every other user now, the cache on the back end will show all these pricing plans immediately. So the speed, it won't be affected. It's all cached in the database. So if you ever work with Convex, it's a reactive database, so it's quick. And if somebody's on the page when I update the products, that will update in real time. So it's pretty cool. So then we go down, frequently asked questions. These are all new. I've pretty much expanded out the landing page to be a full-blown, conversion-centric landing page now. So let's go in. I'll show you inside the landing. This is the dashboard for the organization. And when I say organization, this is going to be the business-to-business line. So we're building two types of tenants right now in the system. So there's going to be organization, right? And that's B2B. And then there's going to be B2C, which is just a regular user kind of thing. So, and then there's going to be an owner dashboard, and I think I showed that in another video. And I'm going to make it like a video only on the owner dashboard later. But the owner dashboard is very important because if you're the owner of the SaaS, you need to be able to keep tabs on your business instead of going into 5 different platforms to look at things. So trying to integrate kind of more information on that. It's a kind of a longer process. So right now we're just doing the B2B dashboard, and in this dashboard it's got a team member section as well, which I think is kind of required. I may put that on hold if it gets to be too complicated, but I think every single company, if it's a B2B, will want to have some type of team members to go in and actually look at information as well inside of every single concept that I've kind of drawn up and spec'd out. Is that, there'll be a manager or some type of higher up that will want to maybe join the service, and then they'll say, hey, I want to offload this to a team member. So I did include team members. The first kind of level of team membership is going to be 5 team members, and then if you purchase a higher subscription level, you get more team members to put in here, and so on and so forth. So there's an invite team section where you invite your team, and they can go in and kind of set up their own. And then we have analytics, which hasn't been fully. It's been mocked out, but it hasn't really been built out yet. So that's kind of on the next agenda. And then here, this is what I want to talk about. So on this billing section, right? When you're going through and asking AI to build out something, there could be 2 entryways or entry points, right? So in this case, there is 2 entry points. I offer in a free service, right, to begin with. So an organization come in, they can try, they can check it out, and so it needs to be able to sign them up without selecting a subscription. However, if they're ready to go and they just want to sign up, they can sign up. So there's 2 ways, right? So if they don't sign up and they're on the free plan, this screen right here needs to show a button that says, sign up, and it shows the billing plans. But on the main landing page, that is a cached pricing table. So it's a little bit different. They do the same thing, but they're just a touch different. So it has 2 ways to do it. And what happened was basically the context that I gave it on the first go around, it actually got everything perfect. It went through step by step, created a spec, did all the tasks. But then when I said, hey, inside the billing, you need to do the same thing. If they're not a subscriber yet, you need to put in the code there. So in my mind, of course, I was a little bit late. It was late at night. I was lazy a little bit, and I said, hey, take the stuff that was on the landing page. And I wasn't super specific. I just said, you need to integrate that into the billing of the back end, so they can upgrade their plan from free to a subscription. Well, what it ended up doing is making 2 different pathways. So then now you've got it's almost like a different developer developed it. So, and that's kind of what happens when you give context to an AI. It has a certain context window that it'll fill up, and then when it's done, at least the one I use, it'll summarize, right? And then it'll go to the next context window. And a context window just means all the data it only has a certain amount of memory that it can kind of fill up. And then once it's full, it starts a new one. But to start a new one, it has to summarize the old one a little bit so that it has some context. But the problem is, what if it doesn't summarize the things that you were specific about on the first context? And you said, hey, I want you to do this and make sure you do this. You just kind of assume, and that's what I did. I kind of assumed that the summarization would give them the information. And it didn't, and it was kind of a parallel process. So 5 hours later, coming up with a lot of different issues with the back end, because the thing is, I'm building this to be live, real time, right? Real time data with Convex. So Convex is quite complicated to deal with, and it had a little bit of an issue because it kept seeing that I had it on the landing page when it would look for the code, but then it would see it in this back-end dashboard. Oh, you got it here too. And so it kept using it as a parallel thing, and that was not correct. And I kept trying to tell it, don't do this. And then it would fill up its context, it would summarize and go to the next one, and then it would lose some of that context. So what I'm trying to get at is, when you're building a piece of code or a feature, you need to make sure that you're very specific and do your due diligence with spelling out everything. But however, when you want to go back and maybe it didn't do it correctly and you want to fix something, you really, really have to be even more careful, because AIs do amazing work from a blank slate. There is no question about that. The problem that AIs get into is when you've said, hey, you did this wrong. It's kind of like a stubborn child, right? When you try to tell them to do something they don't want to do, right? And they might say, hey, my code is perfect. Well, yeah, but I don't like it that way, so change it. And it'll end up going and messing things up, or maybe changing something that you relied upon in a different feature. So because it gets to the point where it tries to simplify things, and that's good, but it also can break other things. So be careful, and make sure you control the complexity, because it may go super complex and then scale back to simply doing it. And by doing that, it'll remove code that was already working somewhere in the code. And I found that to be a big problem with my project. And so when I'm going to do something that I know is going to be hard or integral, I make sure to understand what you're doing. Be careful. There is actual code in here that is a dependency of this thing we're doing, and make sure you don't break it. And it's been pretty good if I'm very specific about that. But just be careful. Um, and again, this team member and invite team section kind of had a similar issue where these are two different features, right? Showing the team, you have to show the team without any limitations. But doing invite team, inviting a team, you have to have a subscription. So it had to build something where it would gate that information, right? So it built a feature gate. So it would say, or a limitation gate. So it would say it had to look at the subscription before it built this little subsection. So and that's pretty cool, because I didn't even think about that. It just came up with the idea of making a feature gate. So pretty cool. That's kind of the update. I don't want to ramble too long. I know it's kind of long now, but that's the update. And yeah, got any questions, or you got any ideas of an app you want to build? Hit me up. Like and subscribe, please. It helps. Anything helps. Appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.